Welcome to the Growth Guys Podcast, presented by KinderReeseCoaching.com. This is the #1 podcast for real estate agents who are serious about growing their business. Get the strategies and tactics to grow your business fast while building the lifestyle you dream of. Now, sit back, buckle up, and get ready, because we're about to get real. The Growth Guys Podcast starts right now.
What's up, John Kitchens? How are you doing today?
Doing awesome, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. It's a beautiful day. I'm excited for today's episode of the Growth Guys Podcast, episode number 3, man. And today we're going to talk about something that's really important, and that is purpose, and why you need to identify what your purpose is, how to identify what your purpose is, and we're going to get into the weeds, so to speak, about purpose, right, John?
Yeah, buddy, absolutely. And we definitely, want to share as much with you that really impacted our lives when it comes to, the focus and the topic of purpose. And one of the foundational, books that we reference a lot is Jim Collins' book, Beyond Entrepreneurship. And he breaks down vision, and, purpose is one of the 3 components that makes up our vision. And, we've been talking a little bit about, time, wherever you're listening to this, for us, it's almost the halfway point of the year. So it's kind of halftime, right? It's halftime of the season. And it's really important to step back in and reevaluate where things are and really focus on, the next 90 days and the rest of the, the second half of your year. And so, we talk strategy, right? And it's like, man, what's the strategy? What's the game plan to get, to accomplish what it is we're wanting to accomplish? And the truth is that without a vision, without a purpose, there is no strategy. And we have to be crystal clear on what that is. And, Collins shares out of his book from a function of leadership, our job as leaders and our #1 responsibility is to catalyze a clear and shared vision for the company and to secure commitment to and vigorous pursuit of that vision. He says this is a universal requirement of leadership, and no matter what your style, you must perform this function. And that's what we talk a little bit, we talk a lot about that. And from that leadership perspective is that, our job as leaders is to have that vision. And then second is to be able to articulate that vision over and over and over again to our people until they're what does Vern Harnish say? He's like, man, if they're not ending your sentences or mocking you or making fun of you, you haven't repeated yourself enough. And that's just a great principle, a great lesson. We talk, I like to reference the kiddo situation, and it's like, man, you tell your kids to make their bed one time and they make their bed every day since then. And the answer is always no, right? Like I can message my 17-year-old right now and say, dude, did you make your bed? Be like, oh, Dad, no, but I'll make it. Right. And so it's the same thing, man. We got to remember that with our people is that, they're not going to really grasp what it is that we're trying to accomplish unless we get comfortable with repeating ourselves over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I think, in order to get people to follow that message, right, you've got to be able to articulate the purpose. And if we really just look at like the true definition of purpose, I think if you look it up, it's an object or results with specific intention. And so we've got to think about what it is that we want, I think most people, and I've heard it described, that purpose really comes down to 2 things when it comes to human nature, and it's growth and giving. And our ability to grow is directly related to our capacity for giving. And everything that we do, whether in business or personally, if it's not connected to a solid purpose, then we probably won't feel fulfilled. We'll probably try to change directions often because we don't really have a solid destination that we're aiming for, or if we have the destination, why is it that destination? You 100%. Know, we have a coaching client, Nikki Gregory, who really honed in on her purpose and has created a nonprofit organization, and now her business feeds her purpose, right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that driving factor, right? It's the question, what gets your butt out of bed in the mornings when you really don't want to do it, right? When you don't feel like it. And
the 5-second rule, buddy. The
5-second rule, baby. And so, definitely that countdown and what has to be done. And a lot of it is, what is that pulling force? And so I think one of the key things that we have to understand when it comes to purpose, it's really the fundamental existence of your organization, of your company. And it's the whole reason that it lives. It has that heartbeat. And it's one of the things that we have to also understand is that it's worked towards, right? It'll never, most of the time it'll never be realized, right? But it's that North Star. It's that thing that's pulling us in that direction. One of the things that had an impact on us from a business perspective and me personally, and I know it's impacted a lot of our clients' lives as well as lives, all over the planet, is Simon Sinek's TED Talk on Start With Why. It's 29 minutes. It's one of the most watched TED Talks of all time. You really need to go watch it and watch it again. And if you have an organization with your team, have them watch it. And, he really distills it down, just like you said, to everybody's why always boils down to something that you want to contribute so that it has some type of impact. What is your contribution of whatever it is that you can contribute so that it has a profound impact, right? So like just think about what, like what you mentioned with Nikki and what she's looking to create a cause in a movement and people that are going to willing to contribute the resources and whatever they have so that it has an impact on the really profound cause that she's going after. So I think that's what we have to understand when it comes to purpose. And, there's a lot of, you can go the 5 questions, the 5 whys, right? And just like you said, though, you go through that process, you're going to come to that conclusion at some point. And so, a really good question, to kind of start is, why did you start your company in the first place? Is a great question. Another one is, what legacy are you hoping to leave behind as a result of your business? And that's the Facebook question, right? I love their approach. And I know you and I've talked about it, and we'll talk about it some more, is that, Facebook asks 2 questions. Where do we want this company to be 3 decades from now? And what are we doing in the next 6 months to make that happen? And so I love the 3 decades because it's beyond you, right? Most people are not going to be a part of that organization in 3 decades. And so what are you hoping to contribute so that it has this impact that is really moving us towards that direction? Another is, what part of what you do excites you the most? I think we have to be a little careful that gets over into passion, right? And we touch on that a little bit here too. What is the difference between purpose and passion?
I think in your really like getting to your reading my mind, because I was going to say, for people that are like, well, I don't really know what my purpose is. I think the three ways you can start, and you're, giving some great advice with the 5 questions. But if usually I would say purpose would be connected to things that you're naturally good at, things that you naturally enjoy. So that's one example. If you're trying to find your purpose, what are things that you feel that you're naturally good at, that you naturally enjoy? Also, what are things that you're passionate about, right? So they're different though, because the passion will fuel the ride, right, to get to the purpose. But it's stuff that you're passionate about. And also, it's got to be something that fits your values as a person, and it should be consistent with the way that you prefer to operate in the world. And so if you're trying to determine your purpose, I think starting out with those things, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? What am I passionate about? Because I'm going to need that passion to keep going. And what's something that really like how would I like to operate? How would I prefer to operate in the world that aligns with my values? And that can help you really hone in on your purpose. And it's not profits. It's not selling deals. It's not how much money you have in the bank account. All that stuff is, we talked on our last episode about the recipe and getting clear. And so all that stuff is part of the recipe. But, the end result, and in this case, it's a meal that's never finished.
Right.
You know what I mean? The meal, Warren Buffett's giving away 80% of his wealth to charity, but that's going to spur, then Bill Gates and the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation did the same, and then they're going to trigger somebody else. And 100 years from now, there'll be somebody else that's inspired by that, that's continue. Can we ever give enough? Like, there's no end to purpose. Right. Hopefully, right? Hopefully it makes an impact on other people so that when your time is over, it's a relay race to a never-ending finish line.
It is, man. And the thing that, where we get hung up is that we already have a purpose. Some of us just aren't quite aware of it. And a great example is, Nike. Collins references Nike and Beyond Entrepreneurship, but he talks about how, they operated for years without a crystallized purpose. And so we all have it. Right. And if you go through Simon Sinek's book, not Start With Why, I think it's a great book. I think you could get a lot of the principles and the meat and everything out pretty quick. The TED Talks and stuff like that. But he has the book, Find Your Why, and it's the whole process to go through, and has a lot of impact there. And like I said, and just like you said right out of the gate, it's always distilled down to two things. And what he talks about is it's to contribute so that impact, right? What is your contribution that's going to have the impact that you want to have? And that's really, and he talks about it. He's like, man, it's formed early on. It's formed early on from your experiences that you have in life growing up. Has that ingrained. We've talked about desire, right? Sustained desire, right? There's things that are ingrained in us to sustain desire. One is the big dream. What is it? The bigger than what we believe could be the purpose. But the second is that, who are we trying to win the approval of, and who are we trying, or are we trying to prove somebody wrong? And that gives us the sustained desire. And that could be part of, purpose could be that driving factor, right? That's pulling you along. And here's the cool thing about purpose. And I've got some, looking through kind of rummaging through some of our older strategic plans to look at kind of what, from a business perspective over the years, kind of what that purpose was. And you don't have to get stuck in the business model or get stuck in what you're currently doing, is because you're always going to be finding a better way that gets you on that path working towards that purpose. So like for us in the Lawton office, this is a strat plan from August of 2014. And our purpose with that company at that time was to win the consumer by delivering and managing the highest level of emotional consumer experience in the industry under a highly profitable model. And, that's really drove our thinking, drove our decision, drove everything we did. But the one that really stands out, is the NAEA one from 2015. And the purpose was change the lives of real estate agents. You look at even what we're doing today, right? With coaching, with, Kinder Reese University, what we're doing at EXP, dude, we're still in pursuit of the vision and our purpose to change the lives of real estate agents. And I really believe we do that. I believe we do that at a high level. And it's something that we're never going to stop doing. I mean, that's what driving factor of why we're doing these episodes, right? Why we're doing this podcast. And so, man, you see how powerful that is when you get that and you put that out there and you know that's what you're working towards. And then all of your decisions, all of the things that you're doing, the content, the value add is in constant pursuit of whatever that purpose is for you.
And ask yourself, if I, is this aligned with my purpose? Is what I'm about to do? And I think in our case, we're lucky to have, and through our onboarding process and the way that we indoctrinate people to our team and the way that we hire people, everybody who's involved with our business is on the same page. Yep. Everybody. Jay's probably doing something right now that relates to that purpose. Michael, right now, I don't know what he's doing, but I guarantee you it's related to that purpose. I just got off of a call from 11 to 12, a live training webinar that was directly related to that purpose. Like you said, We're doing podcast. Everything that we do throughout the day, maybe I'm not consciously aware all the time. Like, let me see, is this webinar going to serve that purpose? Like, I don't have to kind of, it's in the background. Everything that we do, even subconsciously, is aligned with that purpose. And everybody on our team is on the same page. And that's really important. And then therefore that kind of regulates the actions that we take. I've talked a few times about a life improvement seminar, whatever you want to call it, Pathways, that I went through years ago here in Dallas, Texas. People fly from all over the world to go to it. It was originally started by Dr. Phil with the reasoning that after being a psychologist, I think not a psychiatrist, because I don't think he could issue drugs. So I think he was a psychologist. But for years, people would spend 20, 30 years in therapy and never really solve the problem. Nope. And he felt like there was a better way to do it. So he started this thing called Pathways, which is really intense and in a short period of time, 3 months. You kind of do what 30 years in therapy might never do. And at the end of that deal, there's something called getting your contract. And it is tough. I got chills right now, literally thinking about it. Like, it's scary. It's uncomfortable. If you're one of the last people to get your contract, it's even worse because everybody else who's already got their contract is all around you. I can tell you the last guy who got his contract in my class, these are classes about 40 people. This was about a 45-year-old man. He had stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from basically every member in his family. He had alienated his kids. He had ripped off his business partners, just to give you a sense. And at the end, he's the last person. So you got 39 other people that are literally huddled around this guy. And the facilitator is just getting into him, man. I mean, getting into it. Get down on the floor. I'll call him Joe for lack of better. Get down on the floor, Joe. And he rips off a piece of paper and says, write down on that piece of paper that I'm a thief. Write it down. I'm a thief. Now write your son's name down. Write, I'm a terrible dad. Write, how much money did you steal? Write it down. I stole this much from everybody I love. I mean, just imagine that process. And then he goes, Jeff, grabs my arm, the facilitator, sit down. And he sits me down and he tells him, this is your son. You tell him right now what you would want to tell him. And, I had dealt with some things, just to be honest, with my dad through the Pathways. Yeah. So there was a double-ended thing that Kevin, the facilitator, knew what he was doing there. I was getting something out of it because he was playing the role of my dad, and he was getting something. And man, dude, he just looked at me and it was super emotional. I get emotional thinking about it right now. But anyhow, my contract at the end, after everything, I still remember it. It's in a closet, unfortunately rolled up. I used to have it on the wall. But because you write it down on paper, big old poster piece, and it was that I have love for myself so that I can love others and be a leader of unshakable conviction. That's my purpose. And, awesome. Sometimes you forget it. Sometimes it's not in the front of your mind. But if it's really your purpose, then everything that you do, even if you don't know it, should kind of be aligned with it. And I look all the way back, when I was 19 or 20, I grew up in Salinas, California, a lot of gangs and stuff there, made a lot of bad choices and went my own way and was a rebel. And I've lived on the streets. I've slept on park benches. I've slept in a car that didn't run, and we'd call AAA to tow it to a different location so that it wouldn't look suspicious sitting in the same spot for too long, and so on. But I always felt, man, that there was something more. I wasn't stupid, or anything like that. I had all the resources. I was just making really bad decisions, but I knew that there was something more, and eventually I started to take actions that were aligned with that purpose. And I thought back then that I wanted to be a leader. I thought back then that I wanted to help other people, and eventually that led me to packing 3 boxes of the stuff that I thought was really important, and I rode an Amtrak train from Salinas, California to Dallas, Texas, and got off that train with 3 boxes, and within 2 years was making $200,000 a year in the financial services business. Now, then I got off track because I was so happy about the money, but I never was fulfilled. And it got to the end of my career in that industry, and I just hated going to work, hated picking up money. I left $80,000 in commission on the table just because I didn't want to call somebody and say, hey, send that check in. I literally left and let somebody else just make a 5-second phone call and pick up those checks via FedEx. But it was not aligned with my purpose. And so if you're feeling like unfulfilled, but you got money or whatever it is, man, that's because you got to get in touch. You got to be in line with your purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And, another great exercise is write your eulogy, right? What are they going to say about you when you're gone? Is another powerful exercise. But, even before you do this work and in this perspective, man, it all starts with your values and really being true, right? So like some of like what you were sharing wasn't in alignment to your values, wasn't in alignment to why you exist. And so, like you nailed it. It really becomes the decision-making filters that we really operate through life and the decisions. And so it's no different in our business, in our lives. We have those values, things that are unbreakable, that, just that we would almost fight for, right? If not fight over, because of we're not willing to break. And from our values really grows that purpose. So, if you're really trying to figure that out, I would say, start with kind of going through a core value assessment, core value exercise, identify what are those handful of things that, you value more than anything, really makes you to who you are. And then you can, really dive into some of those questions, things that we shared throughout. And one thing that you hit on a while ago, we were talking about passion and purpose, and you said it's the fuel. Passion is the fuel, and the fuel is energy. And when you think about it, man, it's like, man, when am I the most energized? And usually that's what you're the most passionate about. And so passion is energy. Purpose is really, at your core, deepest beliefs on life. And really like what we've talked about, drilling down to what is the contribution that you want to have that's going to have the greatest impact on not only yourself, those around you, and generations to come. It's powerful. It's that driving factor that'll keep you moving when you don't even want to take one step forward.
Yeah, because if it ain't, you will not get up. Like, it's hard. That purpose is that is a lifesaver. That is a lifesaver. Anybody who's gotten out of the dumps and made it to the top, it was purpose that took them there. It wasn't anything else. Whatever resources they used along the way, they only got and they only implemented because the purpose was authentic. And that's how you get out of the hard times. Those people in Los Angeles on Skid Row, man, they got no purpose. They got no purpose. They got tools. They're not stupid. There's resources there, but they're not clear on their purpose, and they're looking for it. We're all, subject to being in that position if we're not clear on our purpose. I love writing the eulogy that you brought up. It reminds me, again, in that same Pathways thing, one of the things that you did is you imagined yourself when you were a child, long before the society and life puts all this stuff in your backpack. You kind of walk through life with a backpack of all the crap that gets put on you, whether it's bad stuff in life, negative thoughts, whatever it is, you put it all in that backpack. And most of us carry that big backpack. It's heavy. You carry it around for the rest of your life if you can't figure out a way to shed it. But there was a time back when you were 4, 5, 6, Zane, whatever it is, when you didn't have any of that. Like, you were free, clear, everything was great. Nobody had put anything in my backpack yet. And what if you could go back to that 7-year-old little boy? And so what we did is you did in your opposite hand. I'm left-handed. So in your right hand, I wrote a letter that was from my 7-year-old self to the person you are today. What would that 7-year-old boy tell you today? And man, you're doing it in the opposite hand, so it looks like a little kid's hand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So those things are super powerful, right? You got to do it. And just doing it is like that causes amazing things to happen. Just listening to us talk about it is nothing compared to getting out a piece of paper and going through the struggle of actually doing it. And, I think writing down your purpose, keeping it in front of you. When you talked about our NAEA purpose, we had laminated 8x11 cards, right? That had purpose outlined on it with dates on certain objectives that we were going to accomplish by a certain time that were all aligned to that purpose. One of my favorite stories is Emmitt Smith. When he was a rookie in the NFL, he wrote on a napkin that he was going to become the leading rusher in the NFL, and he carried that napkin around with him in his wallet his entire career. And guess what? He was. And I remember hearing a story on the 2020 or 30-30, whatever that documentary is on ESPN. And when he got traded to the Cardinals after he left the Cowboys and he was at the end of his career, he's been in the game for a long time, and there's a rookie in the locker room next to him, and the rookie notices that Emmitt has this piece of paper with this stuff, and he's like, man, why you been there, dude? 3 Super Bowls, look at you. Why are you still doing that? And, he's like, I still this is my purpose. I still haven't gotten here. You know what I mean? And It made an impression on that rookie who probably didn't know what his purpose was. Sure didn't have it written down. And Emmitt Smith still has that napkin today, 30 some years later. So writing it down makes it real, looking at it every day, just like that contract that's rolled up in my office.
Might want to get that out for sure. It's awesome, man. Well, yeah. So just definitely put in the work. It does take a little work. And like shared, the story with Nike, they operate it for years without it. So it's not something that, if you've been operating, you're like, but it is definitely something powerful that you want to go through that resource, go through that exercise. Like I said, Jim Collins' book, Beyond Entrepreneurship, chapter 2 is a great resource. Start with Why TED Talk with Simon Sinek. And, we have to remember, it starts with your values, and from there we convert our values to our purpose. So go through the process, put in the work. It'll serve you beyond belief.
Yep. And if you want to get good people on your team who are aligned with you, get clear on your purpose, because people will be attracted to it that share the same passion for that purpose. And so, John, I appreciate you. I love doing these things with you. Appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us today. And be sure and look for the next episode, guys, of the Growth Guys podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about our coaching program and how we help agents every day not only identify their purpose, but get clear and take the right steps to grow their business, check out kinderreese.com, and you can find all the information that you need to hook up with us there. All right, John, well, let's sign off for today, and we'll see everybody next time.
You got it, man. Thanks.
To find out how to build a 7-figure real estate business in 3 years or less, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. You've been listening to the Growth Guys podcast. If you want us to help you grow your real estate business, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Growth Guys podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast fix to get new, fresh weekly episodes. Catch you next time on the Growth Guys podcast.